for these whole passage questions on a passage like this that's so hard to understand, we really need to make sure we're following the strategy of saving whole passage questions. Ooh, that's a B. Passage questions for last. So even if you read the passage, you got to save this for the end, because there's no way that you understood enough about this passage to get this right with like 100% confidence right away. You're better off doing all the other questions, because guess what? Especially in this case, all the other questions pointed us to the main ideas that we're going to need to answer this. Dickens repeats himself. He hits a bunch of ideas that are important. So the other questions, even though they're about specific lines, are still about central ideas of the passage. Because that's what a good piece of writing is it's a several paragraphs that kind of make the same point. And so if we do the questions that are about just one paragraph at a time, we're still going to understand the big picture. So you got to save this. You got to wait until you've done all the other questions. And I think from memory, this becomes really easy. So A, wariness of their elected representatives has led to poor judgment on the part of citizens and to inferior candidates for public office. We had like 5 questions that were about the inferior candidates, them being a disgrace, and the American people distrusting them. So wariness is distrust. So this matches with a lot that we read. Let's keep looking though. B, distrust of both their fellow citizens and foreigners, no. Means that Americans will remain insular and unrefined. There's a lot wrong with this choice, but even just that one word, foreigners, is enough to get rid of it. They're not about foreigners. It's always about the Americans themselves. So they're not distrustful of foreigners. And plus, Dickens says lots of good things about Americans. So this idea of them being insular and unrefined is very negative. He has some criticisms, but this is way too strong, way too harsh of a criticism for what we read. Doesn't match. C, perceptiveness and independence have enabled Americans to be astute judges of their elected officials. Well, I mean, even if you don't know the word astute, this is a very positive sounding thing. And the whole point, again, is that they're not good judges and that they distrust politicians and they throw good people out of office for no good reason. So to say that they're good or astute judges, no, this is the opposite of what the passage is saying. D, the suspiciousness of their politicians has undermined the government and contributed to widespread instability. This choice starts off pretty good. Yeah, they are suspicious of politicians, and it's hurting the government. It's a little strong, but then we really get to this end part that's just way too out there. They never say this. Contributed to widespread instability. We're not really getting a history lesson here. This is just Dickens' view on what Americans are like. They're never really saying what the country as a whole is experiencing right now. So this is not a history passage in a sense. Like, it's not about events. It's just about his travels and what he kind of thinks of all the people he met along the way. So this end piece, way too strong. A, definitely the answer. I think this is super easy if you at least even got half of the questions right that come later, but that we would have done beforehand, because they ask about these exact same ideas, and it's really just basically like taking all the answers we already got and smushing them into one question. So save whole passage for last. You're going to have a much easier time if you try to answer these right out of the gate.